Welcome back, everyone. Today we're exploring a topic that has transformed how HR operates. It's people analytics and human capital trends. In previous modules, we discussed the foundations of HR and how jobs are designed. Now, today we're going to look at how data and technology are reshaping the entire field. This is where HR becomes truly strategic. We'll cover three main areas: understanding what people analytics means, how it connects to business strategy, and the broader human capital trends affecting organizations today. So let's begin. So, by the end of today's session, you should be able to accomplish these three things. First, it would be to explain the concept of people analytics, what it is and why it matters. Second would be identifying how people analytics is used in strategy, which is how organizations actually apply data to make better decisions. And then lastly, you'll be able to discuss human capital trends. This is the bigger picture, and it changes and it affects how organizations manage their people. These three areas connect together to show how HR is becoming more data driven while still maintaining its human focus. So, let's look at people analytics. Let's define this term. Let's discuss how organizations are adopting people analytics, and also let's consider the implications for HR professionals. What does this mean for your career and your work? Understanding these basics will help us appreciate why people analytics has become such an important topic in HR. So, what are people analytics? At its simplest, people analytics refers to the insights derived from an organization's employee data. It's about using information about people to make better decisions. Historically, HR decisions were largely based on experience and intuition. Managers used their judgment and past experiences to decide who to hire, how to compensate, and who to promote. People analytics seeks to integrate data into these decisions. Instead of just relying on what feels right, organizations can now examine actual evidence about what works. The first group focused specifically on HR analytics and is believed to have formed at Merck in 2001. They called it the HR Decision Support Team. Since then, the field has grown enormously. Think of it this way: if you were choosing a new employee, would you prefer to rely on your gut feeling or on data which candidates actually perform best? People analytics gives you that data. So, let's move on to the adoption trends. The use of people analytics has greatly increased in the last few years. So, let's analyze this. Most large organizations have now formed people analytics teams and built associated databases. This is no longer experimental, it's an established discipline in business. Organizations are addressing the problems of data quality, integration, and integrity. They're making sure that data is reliable and usable. Companies are greatly expanding the type, nature, and level of data they analyze. It's increasingly available in real time. So, like I'm sure you know, data analytics and AI, this has grown tremendously in just the last few years. So, it's better to do this than look at annual reports. And now organizations can see these trends as they develop in real time. Data and analytics literacy has become an imperative for HR professionals. This means HR people need to understand data and not just collect it. People analytics teams are increasingly using AI and machine learning algorithms to partner with the business, helping them find patterns and insights that humans might miss. The trend is clear: analytics is becoming more central to how HR operates. So, let's look at Bersin's model of people analytics. Let's talk about this in more detail. Josh Bersin, he was a well-known HR analyst who developed a model describing 4 levels of people analytics adoption. Okay, so level 1 is when organizations at that level don't see data as a value driver or decision maker. They might collect some data but don't really use it strategically. Then you have level 2. At this level, organizations begin using analytics consistently, but still in a somewhat limited way. They're building capability. Then you have level 3. Organizations here are more advanced, using sophisticated tools and integrating analytics into decision making. And then you have level 4. This is the most mature level, where organizations use data in real time and analytics is embedded throughout the organization. Most organizations are somewhat between levels 2 and 3, but the trend is clearly towards higher levels of maturity. Understanding where your organization falls can help you plan analytics development. So, with organizations being between level 2 and 3, we can see how fast they've been advancing. And like with AI, in the next 5 to maybe 10 years, even smaller organizations may be at the most mature level, because it doesn't require that much human capital when it's done through AI and algorithms. It will be more affordable. So let's move on now to adoption trends. Okay, the growth of people analytics has important implications for HR professionals. Okay. Research shows a significant gap between how important people analytics is perceived to be and the actual analytic skills available in HR. Organizations know they need this capability but struggle to find people with the right skills. Success in people analytics isn't just about the skills of a dedicated analytics team. It also requires HR business partners, analysts, and general staff to understand and use this data effectively. LinkedIn reports that the number of HR professionals listing analytic skills on their profiles has tripled in the last 5 years. This shows that HR professionals recognize the importance of these skills and are actively developing them. So the message is very clear. If you want to advance in HR, understanding data and analytics is becoming essential. So before we move on to our practice question, I would just like to share my experience. So I've also observed the growth of data analytics in the last 3 to 5 years. And I've even seen that some organizations, educational institutions, are offering postgraduate diplomas in data analytics, and a lot of the continuous professional development websites, being Udemy and it's Udemy, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but they have a lot of CPD courses, and you can complete them over 10 to 20 hours and you get your certificate of continuous professional development. And it particularly looks very nice on your resume, knowing that you are going beyond your tertiary qualification, which you could have done years ago, and you're still keeping up with the ever-growing education relating to HR. So if you ever do have time and you are researching what is trending, I highly advise you to do these CPD courses, as they'll really help you understand and facilitate your knowledge towards the future of HR. Okay, so let's move on to our practice question. So, in practice, people analytics seeks to integrate data to improve decisions that have historically been made based on what? I want you to read the options and come up with the right answer. I'll give you 5 seconds and then I'll tell you the right answer. Okay, the correct answer is B, intuition. People analytics is about moving from decisions based on experience and gut feeling to decisions based on evidence and data. Statistics, polling, and data are actually parts of the solution. They are what people analytics uses. Intuition is what it seeks to enhance or replace with evidence based decision making. Alright, so let's move on now to strategy and people analytics. This is a very interesting section. We have 4 learning objectives here. First, we're going to identify key people analytics strategy impacts and how analytics affect strategic decisions. Secondly, we're going to highlight key people in analytics metrics and what organizations actually measure. Then thirdly, we're going to discuss challenges to implementing people analytics, basically what gets in the way. And then fourth, we're going to identify people analytics best practices. So we're going to understand these areas and it will help you see the practical application of people analytics. Okay, so let's move on to the impact. So how does people analytics actually impact strategy? Now, analytics helps us answer these important questions. How to identify and predict successful leaders. So, who is likely to succeed in leadership roles and what characteristics predict performance? How to make informed decisions about human capital, where should we invest in talent and what programs actually work? What is the supply of talent in the marketplace? So can we find the people we need and where are they? And the impact of work done. Are employees actually productive and what factors are affecting their performance? Then you have the strength of culture. Is our organizational culture healthy and how does it affect outcomes? So here's a practical example. Nielsen created a ready-to-rotate group to help employees interested in internal transfers. This was designed to combat high turnover rates. The result was positive business outcomes and increased credibility for the people analytics team. So this demonstrates how analytics can identify a problem, design a solution, and demonstrate results. It's that simple. So let's now move on to the key metrics. This is a very important part. Metrics and accountability are critical to performance. The value of data is in its basis for analysis. Data only has a meaning if it provides actionable insight. Actionable insight, now what does that mean? It means information that helps you understand human behavior, culture, or operational effectiveness. If you're collecting data but not acting on it, you're wasting your time. So you need to consider these questions. What metrics matter most for your organization? How do you know if HR programs are working? What data would help you make better decisions? The answers to these questions will guide your analytics efforts. So let's move on to an example of this. Van Vulpen illustrates how metrics tell a story. For instance, if you notice that turnover is highest amongst employees with less than 1 year of service, that suggests a problem with onboarding or early experiences. That will help you dig deeper. Is it about pay, management, job fit? Each question leads to more specific data. This is how analytics works in practice. You start with a business problem, you collect relevant data, analyze it to find patterns, and then take action based on what you learn. The goal isn't just to produce reports, it's to drive improvement. So, when we actually do that, we're gonna run into some problems, and that's what brings us to challenges in people analytics. So, HR mindset. So a lot of HR practitioners, they need to shift from traditional approaches to evidence-based decision making. This requires education and support for management to understand and trust data. So remember, I told you a lot of people who may have done their degree or their master's degree many years ago, they are actually completing CPD courses. Some are even doing postgraduate diplomas in data analytics. It requires you to keep up with the industry and the ever-growing knowledge involved. Like, always remember, learning doesn't end the moment you write your final exam in any career. It continues until you leave this world. Okay, so let's get back to this. Managing expectations. So, unreal expectations are a danger. People may expect analytics to solve every problem instantly. That's not going to happen. You need to start with the specific business problem and show what's possible. So, don't use big data, use big questions. Organizations often focus on collecting lots of data rather than asking the right questions. You need to work smart, not hard. Focus on questions that impact business performance rather than just jumping to solutions. And of course, you need the right tools. Data tools weren't designed for analytics. Finding effective tools that work for HR data can be challenging. And these challenges are real, but they are manageable with the right approach. So, what are some more challenges? Now, no confidence. If you don't have confidence in your data or your approach, don't rush. Take your time. Put people analytics on pause until you have a reliable framework. Collaborate and learn from other practitioners. Show me the money. Executives want to see return on investment. So you need to develop employee productive measures and link initiatives to improving productivity. You need to show how analytics saves money or increases revenue. No executive is going to invest their hard-earned capital into this without eventually seeing some results. We have structural issues. So many organizations struggle with HR structure that doesn't support analytics. You need to leverage these lessons learned by other companies and ensure HR representatives have basic analytical skills. You need to continuously evaluate its effectiveness. These challenges suggest that people analytics requires organizational commitment and not just a few data-savvy individuals. Okay, so now we've spoken about the challenges, and let's move on to the best practices. So, based on what we learned, you need to focus on business relevance. Focus on research on critical business issues. You need to confirm that business leaders are willing to act on research findings before you start. You need to generate some actionable insights. Develop consultancy skills and an ability to speak in business terms. If you can't explain what your data means in plain language, it's not useful. And that always reminds me of what Albert Einstein said. If you cannot explain something simply, you don't understand it. And of course, you need to involve legal and compliance measures. You need to work with legal representatives to ensure compliance with privacy legislation, contracts, and other regulations. This is very crucial. So, it's a process. It takes time to hone in on the research question, develop the model, and select and validate data. Don't set a delivery date until you're confident you can deliver. Success requires balance. HR analytics requires a team with a blend of capabilities and skills. These can be data scientists, HR professionals, and business people. These practices help ensure that analytics efforts are effective and sustainable. So, let's move on to our next question. Which of the following is the focus of Bersin's model of people analytics adoption in level 2? You can read the options, lock in your answer, and in about 5 seconds I'll tell you the correct answer. Okay, The correct answer is C. The focus is on the consistent use of analytic tools. Level 1 is where data isn't considered a value driver. Level 2 represents consistent use of analytics. Level 3 involves advanced tools and technology. And level 4 represents real-time analytics. Level 2 is about moving from occasional use to regular, consistent application of analytics. Right. Let's move on to human capital trends. Now we are going to be looking at the bigger picture, the human capital trends shaping HR. We have one learning objective for this section. Identify human capital trends and their implications. These trends represent the broader changes in how organizations think about and manage their people. Understanding them helps you see where HR is heading. So, let's understand it. HR must adapt in the context of changing enterprise workforce and how work gets done. This requires shifts across 4 dimensions. So, the mindset, from going digital to being digital. This means embracing new traits and behaviors. It's not enough to use digital tools. Organizations must think digitally. This means reevaluating job design, work, and strategic planning. Then you have the focus, from center-driven to human-centered. This means personalizing the workforce and driving measurable value rather than treating everyone the same. Organizations should consider individual differences and needs. Lens, from compliance and control to trust and empowerment. This means flexible operating models and ecosystems that foster speed, talent, and innovation. Trust becomes more important than control. Then we have the enablers, from integrated systems to a unified engagement platform. This means adopting advanced technologies and reinvention. HR systems should work together seamlessly to engage employees. These shifts represent a fundamental transformation in how HR operates. So, I have an activity for you that I would really like you all to do. It's going to involve you all identifying one company that uses people analytics well. What tools do they use and how do they evaluate the data gathered? Secondly, are there times where people analytics would not be useful? You need to provide some examples over there. And then after that you're going to ask what are the ethical considerations of implementing people analytics in HR. Now, once you do this, you're going to notice how ethics comes up repeatedly. Privacy, consent, and fairness are crucial considerations when using employee data. So, let's just do a quick recap of what we covered in today's lesson. What are people analytics? It's the insights derived from employee data to improve decision making. What are adoption trends? They show increasing use of analytics in HR, with most large organizations having dedicated analytics teams. The implications? They include a growing need for analytics skills in HR professionals. Strategy impacts include better talent decisions, improved productivity, and stronger culture. Key metrics must provide actionable insight into behavior, culture, operational effectiveness. The challenges include HR mindset, unrealistic expectations, lack of confidence, and structural issues. Best practices include focusing on business relevance, generating actionable insights, involving legal measures, and allowing time for the process to develop. Human capital trends include shifts towards being digital, human-centered focus, trust, and empowerment. And don't forget unified engagement platforms. So these concepts represent the future of HR. As data becomes more available and tools more sophisticated, the ability to use analytics effectively will distinguish successful HR professionals. So, that concludes Module 3. We did a quick recap, and looking ahead, we're going to explore this more in detail, with regards to talent acquisition and how organizations find and attract the right people. If there's any questions, please drop them in the comments, and thank you for your attention and participation in today's lesson. I'll see you next time.